Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Army launches Operation Cat Race to tackle farmers and herdsmen crisis. Chief of Army Staff orders troops to go after arm-bearing herdsmen and militia or face court-martial. Police arrest 4 persons linked to the killing of officers in Nasarawa and some residents of Benue State as the Inspector General of Police engages indigents of both states in talks to end the crisis. Crisis within the APC in Kaduna State deepens as state government demolishes the Secretariat of a faction of the party in the state. And South Africa's new president, Cyril Ramaphosa, to screen lifestyles of future government officials as he gets set to form his cabinet. Just to let you know that for more on our top stories and others, please visit our website, channelstv.com and youtube.com/channelsweb. And log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device, or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. The Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You also have access to the Eyewitness feature, with which you can share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu, and then follow the instructions. Well, some have done that already, and we can share the pictures that we have today. Well, we will share those pictures later on. Let's move on to something else now, to judiciary matters. And the Federal High Court in Abuja has agreed to a separate trial for the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. Mr. Kanu was in 2015 charged before the court with 3 others on charges of treasonable felony. The others are the National Coordinator of IPOB, Chidiebere Onwudiwe, an IPOB member, Benjamin Madubugu, and one David Nwanwusi. The court, presided over by Justice Binta Nyako, had in a ruling on April the 25th, 2017, granted bail to Mr. Kanu, but rejected the application of other defendants. But he has stopped attending proceedings with his lawyer, Ifeanyi Ejiofor, who claims that Mr. Kanu has been missing since some soldiers invaded his home in September 2017. Justice Nyako adjourned to February the 28th for Mr. Kanu's 3 sureties, including Senator Eyinnaya Abaribe, to either produce the IPOB leader in court or show cause why each of them should not forfeit their 100 million naira bail bond. To politics now. There's been a war of words between a faction of the All Progressives Congress in Kaduna State and the state government over the demolition of a building housing the Secretariat of a breakaway group. The APC faction is accusing the Kaduna State government of sponsoring the demolition, describing it as a deliberate act of terror. But the Director General of the Kaduna State Geographic Information Service, Ibrahim Hussaini, says the building was pulled down for flagrant violation of the land use law and non-payment of ground rent since 2010.
The crisis rocking the Kaduna State APC is getting messier by the day. First, it was the indefinite suspension of the senator representing Kaduna Central, Sheikh Hussaini, in December of 2016 by the State Executive Committee of the party for alleged anti-party activities. This year again, Senator Suleiman Hunkuyi, representing Kaduna North Zone, is slammed with a 6-month suspension, while 28 others are suspended for more or less the offences.
Trying to open a parallel office and other issues which the party view as an anti-party activities.
Aggrieved over their suspension, the 2 suspended senators and some other party chieftains form a parallel organ. They also opened a new APC office along Sambo Close in the state capital, claiming to be the duly recognized faction by the party's national leadership.
At any given point in time, we submit to legally constituted authorities of the party.
Some of his activities include dashing out tickets to chronic friends and relatives of upcoming local government election primaries to whom he desires on the ground of what he called consensus.
But the faction is soon on the back foot. Its new office, a duplex, reduced to rubble by a bulldozer in the early hours of Tuesday. The faction is pointing fingers at the state government, whom they claim sent its agents to demolish the Secretariat.
Around 3:30, I had the security men making noise, going up and down. When I just stood up, I opened the window, the curtains. I saw hillocks, military hillocks packed all over the place. If that is what is going to come from somebody who's supposed to enforce a law, and he is the one who is taking law into his hand, is very, very unfortunate.
However, the Director General of the Kaduna Geographical Information Service says the demolition has no political motive.
A building on number 11B Sambo Close was removed for violations of land use and non-payment of ground rent since 2010. This illegal violation of use had begun to distress neighbors who were being forced to endure an influx of thugs and blockage of road.
Although the 2019 elections are months away, the political tension within the ruling APC is giving some members a cause for concern about the party's direction and fate at the poll.
Now, the political wrangling accompanying the preparation for the 2019 elections appears to be highlighting the strengths and probable weaknesses of political parties in Nigeria. Our next report looks at the recent internal politics of both political parties, rivalry, and the attempts to foster unity.
Go vote for! Who you go vote for?
Politics thrives on vibrant opposition as different interests struggle for power. And in Nigeria, the two most dominant parties being the People's Democratic Party and the ruling All Progressives Congress. Power changed hands at the center from the PDP to the APC, which led to defections from the erstwhile dominant party to the new kids on the block. Since the PDP lost grip of the center, it faced perhaps one of the most stormy periods any political party could face. But it appears its last national convention is giving it reprieve over the heated internal and external troubles. For the APC, on the other hand, it will seem that being in control at the center is causing more trouble than it envisaged. The party is not only facing squabbles at the national level, some senators and state governors are at loggerheads in at least 7 states. The president's appointment of Senator Bola Tinubu to help unify the party is the hope most loyalists appear to cling to help save the APC from an implosion. Internal party politics in Nigeria is not a friendly game most times. Even the not-so-popular parties are in crisis. Critics of the ruling party will say the only string keeping the APC together is the power it holds.
Now, let's take a deeper look at intra-party rivalry and the consequences of all this. Joining me from Abuja is a political analyst, Mr. Pt.2. Thanks a lot for joining us on the News at 10.
Thanks for having me. My name is Pt.2.
Pt.2, apologies for that. Now, let me just start off from the demolition of the Secretariat of one of the factions of the APC. What was your reaction to that, to what happened in Kaduna State?
Well, in my own estimation, that's executive rascality, executive lawlessness. Yeah, and it's a curtain raiser to many other things that will happen in the lead up to 2019 general election. It's quite unfortunate because this party secretariat was just opened last Thursday, and barely 3-4 days after, you found one reason or the other to pull it down. As it said, you know, the law is for your enemy, the exemption is for your friends. They just realized now that Senator Nkui has not been paying ground rent since 2010. This is 2018. Why didn't they discover that much earlier, before the face-off between his camp, the restoration camp, and that of the governor of the state? And I think it's laying the bad precedent ahead of 2019 elections.
Well, does that take away, I mean, if you say that that's how you see it, does that take away the fact that they were not paying that rent? If it's found that indeed they weren't, does that still make the timing difficult for you? And is it really political intolerance?
Of course, the issue is this. If somebody is not paying ground rent, and you said abuse of property, that it was meant for residential, is now being turned to political office. Is demolition the next thing to do? How many months or weeks of eviction notice was served on the owner of the property? Could he not have been asked to pay his ground rent up to date? Otherwise, he stands to forfeit. Is demolition even the way out? I think it smacks of politics, in my own estimation, and I think it smacks of political intolerance on the part of the state executive in Kaduna State.
But let's look at the bigger picture now. All this is happening in the middle of reconciliation efforts by the leadership of the party. What would you say to those who are already saying that this throws a spanner in the works of such reconciliation efforts by the party leadership?
The insinuation from the camp of the governor in Kaduna State is that the restoration group, the Akida and restoration group that opened the new office last week, was actually using that as a bargaining chip before the reconciliation committee set up by the president. I really don't know how that works. I'm not a politician, but I think it's just making the work of Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu much more difficult, because if people are embroiled in a dogfight over issue of succession or 2019 election, at this very point in time, properties are being destroyed, all in the name of non-payment of some charges. And even at the dawn of night, I mean, if you want to demolish property, should you do that 3:30, 4 a.m.? Couldn't you have done that when everybody is awake and we can see what you're doing? The bottom line is that, as I've said earlier on, it makes the work of the Reconciliation Committee a lot more difficult. And like you said in your report, it's not even in Kaduna State alone. We have similar scenario happening in Kogi, in Zamfara, in Rivers State. Yeah,
but that was the whole Kanu, idea of this Reconciliation Committee to go. Others. Yes, what I'm trying to say is that was the whole idea of the Reconciliation Committee, for them to go around and see the members who are aggrieved and try to resolve that. But even if we step away from that and look at the crisis that happened in the PDP, though they're trying to resolve theirs, just for a second, say they're unable to heal their old and now fresh wounds within the APC. What do you think that spells for 2019 with the PDP the way they are and with what's transpiring now in the ranks of the APC?
First and foremost, we must establish that conflict is part of politics. I mean, you can't have multitudes without some measure of conflict. It's just not to escalate to violence. And the way it is, it has to be mitigated, and which is the whole essence of setting up a reconciliation committee, both in APC and in PDP. What needs to be done is political will and genuineness of intention to reconcile the aggrieved parties. Of course, I mean, even if they spend the next 1 year trying to reconcile, there will be those who will still dig in, who will still not agree with the terms and conditions of the Reconciliation Committee. But the parties are just trying to mend fences to make sure that they cut their loss, they don't experience mass decampment ahead of 2019 general elections. Recall that, initially when this happened in PDP 2014, 2015, they were calling the bluff of those who were aggrieved and said that they are spent forces, they are useless, they can go. But today, they have known better that you can't be losing your members and think you can still win elections. So it's a lessons learned, and I wish them all the best. All right. I hope that the reconciliation committees that have been set up both in PDP and APC will be able to succeed for the sake of decency, right, for the sake of peaceful election in 2019, because we can't be losing lives, we can't be losing property, all in the name of election. It's not like that in many other Senate climes.
All right. Thank you so much, political analyst Mr. Jide Ojo, for joining us on the News at 10 tonight. Thank you. And when the News at 10 returns, Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation spends over $5.8 billion on petrol importation since late 2017. That's on Business News. Be joined again.